It can be quite frustrating when a unit you really like has garnered a bad impression because people don't know how to use them. We're coming up to the 7th anniversary and there's bound to be a bunch of controversy with who the best unit in the game is going to be, given that they're going to drop new spectacular units as expected. And I think that's a big part of the Legends community, the fun that everybody partakes in. It's about who you think is best and sharing your opinion on that topic. So in this video, I wanted to talk on some units that were misunderstood. And I'm not talking about units that got countered. For example, Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. He is not misunderstood. Majin Vegeta just slammed him. But there are other units that people praised and didn't last long, while there's other units that didn't get praised but showed they have a lot of life on them. If there's any I missed out, let me know in the comment section below. But I've got some to list in this video, so let's get into this. So the first unit I want to talk about in this video is Gogeta Blue, and I'm not talking about the Fusing Gogeta Blue. The first Legends Limited Gogeta Blue, and his PR run is immaculate because nobody remembers that when he released, people thought he wasn't good. A lot of people genuinely felt he was underwhelming and wanted him to get buffed. They thought he just wasn't good enough for the release alongside Broly, and that's because Broly had some things that took the spotlight. At that time, damage inflicted and draw speed were moving the game more than anything else, and because Broly was specializing in those two things, the way his kit is built, he's meant to steamroll the enemy by himself, so you're meant to keep him on the battlefield. He is the sole attacker, defender, everything on his team, and if you don't use Broly like that, you can't get the benefits of everything he offers. But he was good enough to be that guy that could do everything by himself. Naturally, this took away a lot of spotlight from Gogeta Blue, even though Gogeta Blue is also naturally a more popular unit. If you read Gogeta Blue's kit, you guys will know that he builds up his damage inflicted and ultimate damage inflicted when he presses strikes and blast arts. He also gets cover null for the first few times he switches in, so it isn't difficult to build up his overall damage. But the issue that people felt that was there is that he doesn't start as the powerhouse. He also doesn't get draw speed, so it doesn't make it easy to get these damage buffs up. But at that time, if you did get the damage buffs up, he would become insane. Also, I feel a lot of people weren't accustomed to the skill-based aspect in his kit. His green card, you guys will know if you land his green card where he puts his hands in like a windmill, he's going to inflict the enemy with no switching, and this enables you to be able to land 2 art cards alongside pressing the main ability and an ultimate art, or you could chain all 4 of your art cards without any other enemies interrupting that. That enabled you to become a free kill machine, and that's what made him great. But a lot of people didn't realize that for more time than should have been necessary, in my opinion. So during that first month, people were maining Broly over Gogeta Blue. A lot of people were still using Gogeta Blue, and that's naturally because he's popular, but people accepted Broly as the better unit. I remember uploading a video specifically at that time teaching people how to make Gogeta Blue better, and all you need to do is prioritize him for the first 2 switches. We know now units with this type of kit won't be successful long term. For example, Dragon Fist Goku. But there are some that can make it work, and I think mainly because Gogeta Blue has his green card, he becomes more menacing. I will also add that his blue card gives him extra damage inflicted, which can be put out in the green card state. So if you play your cards well, you can easily get an ultimate off and take the enemy out. That's easily taking out a full bar of health. Like I said, this unit here has an amazing PR run. So as time went on, Broly's damage just began to decline, and that's because of power creep. It happens to every unit, but Gogeta Blue did not get affected by power creep because he's the type to build up. Not to say Broly doesn't either, but none of his building up is permanent. Gogeta's ones are permanent, and anything else he stacks on top allows him to get one powerful attack that will take out the enemy. And for a long time after one of the most insane runs, Longevity of Death, he was continuously used. Up until now, we've seen his Zenkai. People were praying for it almost every single year till we got it this year in 2025. The second unit I want to speak on is Pikkon and Super Gogeta. I don't know what it is with Gogetas, but they just don't go all out all the time. There's quite a few misses. But with this unit here, they weren't bad, and it was just simply a lapse in judgment from the community and the masses. And I'm a part of this, I'm not gonna lie. On his release, these new equipments that we get quite consistently, and I'm talking about the ones in the dual coin shop, the hyperdimensional co-op equipment, they were only becoming relevant at that time of Pikkon and Super Gogeta's release. So if you ran Pikkon and Super Gogeta in their prime without those hyperdimensional co-op equipments, you would not be able to get the full potential out of the unit, which made them feel a lot more lackluster than they actually are. This unit here is a revival unit, and Super Gogeta on his own does a lot of damage, and Pikkon can tank a lot, especially in his prime, but people couldn't see that in their first week or two. And when I say people, I'm including me too. And that's simply because these equipments, we didn't know how valuable they were. But once people started to realize these equipments are literally game changing and started applying it to not just PyCon and Super Gogeta, but every other unit that's come after, it's changed a lot of people's perspectives on how units can perform. So in this case, it wasn't Super Gogeta's fault. It wasn't PyCon's fault. It was simply just a lapse in judgment from the community and the masses. And again, I'm part of that number. But when it's something new like that and the wording is quite tricky, I believe there was also issues with the way it was translated. So even though it reads a certain way, it doesn't apply the way it's written. That's what made it harder to understand. But once we got the hold of it, PyCon and Super Gogeta, they were looking real nice. We've got Evo Ken, Vegeta and Goku from the Tournament of Power tagged unit for the 2023 festival. This unit here was spectacular on release. They were rivaling Red Beast Gohan, and everybody knows how great Red Beast Gohan is. So the fact that they were even put in the same conversation is a very big deal. You had two options in this meta. You choose Red Beast's side, where he's one-shotting everything, taking things out in very few art cards, but his combo potential is also good, just nowhere near as great. And on the other side, by comparison, we've got Evo Ken, can do the same damage output, but it's going to take you a lot longer. Even though it will probably feel more secure, you have that long combo going past 99, doing good amount of damage the whole time, less than Beast, but the combo extension is completely out of this world. For their release, and even extended through to the Bardock and Goku release, so the part 2 of that festival, Evo Ken were literally neck and neck with Beast Gohan. Running Universe Rep, one of the most overpowered teams at that time, even better than any team you could put Beast on, was the Evo Ken, Jiren, Zenkai by the way, and MVP 17 team, where there was good survivability there, 2 units with endurance, buff cancellation, and combo galore, including also extra protection, because Jiren and MVP 17 are insanely tanky. Evo Ken healed a lot too. But in the third part, when Ultra UI released, somehow Evo Ken got replaced on his own team, and from here it just became useless to use him. I don't actually understand why people stopped using him, but it just became apparent that he wasn't relevant anymore. Ultra UI did everything Evo Ken can do, but better in short amount of time. Sun Family was just better orientated than Universe Rep as a whole. Evo Ken took too long to do damage, so in the time that they take somebody out, the person could probably cover change 2 times, and that's getting rotations. On top of that, Ultra UI can flip out combos, so Evo Ken taking too long, it's not in their favor. They just felt a lot more lackluster, and people really thought that they were gonna hang as long as Beast Gohan, but not even getting countered, just simply replaced. People just put them down and they just phased out into history. It's quite a shame for a unit like this. They were quite nice. I guess people just got tired of them. For a unit that could rival Beast Gohan, hey man, they tried. But for those guys that really thought this unit was gonna hang, you was wrong. We've got Bomku in this video, and I'm not gonna talk much about him either, but I remember when he released, because of the previous year's releases all being attached to Universe Rep, they started the year of Ultra Hit and MVP 17, and we know how MVP 17 is built. Endurance supports his team, and he's that layer that keeps his team debuff free. Bomku drops at the start of 2024, and people are expecting him to be super valuable because he has endurance and he can break combos because of his gauge. People are calling him the MVP 17 of GT, the MVP 17 of 2024. Well, to our surprise, even though he's also blue, he was just not him. Very quickly did we see that he is not able to tank anywhere as near good as MVP 17. His damage numbers are less, and the team just didn't fold together nicely. Even when the anniversary started, when we got the prophesized Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, he still didn't make a comeback. It was just a lackluster release overall. He had potential, but he didn't reach it, and that's just a shame. Ultra Super Janemba. This unit here is a very, very interesting case, and I don't want to say the community was completely wrong, but this unit was definitely overhyped and overrated, especially for the long haul. The way his kit works, he relies on his gauge, where his gauge can counter any forward moving attack, specifically strikes and blue cards and green cards, not tackles. However, when that activates, he only gets the ultimate the first time it happens. So in comparison to a unit like Ultra Margin Vegeta, every time his blast gauge goes up, he gets a blue card, right? But with Janemba, it's one ultimate. So quickly, it was found out that once you have a green unit, if you could can just use that green unit to tank his ultimate, Janemba pretty much becomes useless. He was an overpowered unit for his release, and the time he released was prior to the festival, but once the festival started, especially with the release of Evoken, going into part 2 of Bardock and Goku, this unit got absolutely squashed. This is an ultra, by the way, that didn't last more than 2 months. A lot of people might cope and say people could have still used them, and you could apply that to almost every unit. But let's be real, for a unit that was spoken about as top 1, quickly phased out, and he's never made a return since. And I think that's very evident. It's not a fact that you could go against, that this unit here, once he was out, there was no room for him to return, even though there was red units that came out. Beast Gohan also dropped in the festival, but Janemba didn't get used long term after that. In early next year, we got Super 17, but Janemba didn't make a return for that either. So I think it speaks volumes about how good this guy's kit looked to people, specifically for the long haul, but I will not lie, in his prime, he was doing damage, especially to counter the glazed unit of death, Ultra Vegito Blue. And I started this video with Gogeta Blue, and we're ending this video with fusing Gogeta Blue. I think it's very apparent that on his release, he was actually pretty good. Not the greatest, as people would have claimed he was, and I'm gonna put myself in that boat as well. In that first week, a lot of people summoned for Gogeta Blue. I'm telling you, he was the more popular unit, to the point where he was the most used unit in BR70 and above. So the top ranks of PvP were using fusing Gogeta Blue more than fusing Super Vegito, and I think that speaks volumes in itself. So naturally, the odds of you coming up against a Gogeta versus a Vegito are just higher, and more people summon for him, so you'd also encounter him with higher stars on average. That first season of PvP really showed that people favored Gogeta, so that made him appear good. And I specifically remember fighting a bunch of Gogetas thinking, this unit is so tanky, he does so much damage, once that gauge is filled and he hits a blue card, that's a nuke. My live streams are up on the channel so you can check them out yourself. But after that first season, I think things settled down, people started getting more CC and started to spread their CC out into the fusing Super Vegito banner, and in that second season, after the anniversary began, fusing Super Vegito became the #1 most used unit, and that was very shocking to me. Not because Vegito wasn't better, and I will tell you straight up, in hindsight, Vegito was so clear. I was always supporting Vegito, even though I felt like Gogeta was putting more pressure on me. But it's more so the switch up of how people went towards the rising rush mechanic, and I think it's because people started realizing that fusing Gogeta Blue is not as perfect as people thought he would be. Specifically his strike assault, he doesn't get cover no any other way outside of his strike assault. So that means you have to press a card, which can be cover changed, and then you can start the strike assault, and it's only through strikes, which he doesn't just always switch blasts into strikes. It's only on that first card on his switching. Then outside of that, pre-transformation, he can get cover no, but his tag switches are a lot more lackluster in comparison to Vegito. So with Vegito, you press a green card, you can immediately tag switch. With Gogeta, you press a green card and it only fills a portion of your gauge, so you still have to press some cards. But if you do a blue card, then you can completely tag switch. But the issue with that is you have to press an attack that's going to press the enemy, which means that you could be at risk of getting perfect vanished or just vanish and then hit again. There's no risk with a green card when you're standing still, but there's risk with a blue card when you have to attack the enemy. So it made it harder to get to your synchro stage using Gogeta than when you was using Vegito. Overall, it felt like his strike assault, which wasn't as valuable as we deemed it to be originally, also came with way too many barriers to get to and utilize. So it just made him a lot more worse as we went down the line. Yes, he gained some value because of Ultimate Gohan and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, but that was only short term anyways. And I feel it was more so the idea that Gogeta, again, is a very popular unit, but it was very clear that he was not going to survive long, which he didn't. That's going to make the end of the video. I think everything here that I put in the video is absolute facts, but there are some units that I did miss out just simply because I didn't want to make the video too long. But I think these are the main ones in Dragon Ball Legends history where people looked at them and thought they were better than they actually were, or thought they were worse than they actually were, and things switched up really fast or not soon after. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.